Welcome to the Invention Stories Podcast, where we share stories of inventors who turn their idea into a product. Please visit our website at www.inventionstories.com. And now, from the Invention Stories Podcast World Headquarters Studios in Morro Bay, California, is our host, Robert Baer.
Welcome to the Invention Stories Podcast, brought to you by the Socket Saver. My name is Robert Baer, and thank you for joining us. You're listening to episode 26, Elizabeth Crouch and the Cupcake Rack, Part 2. This episode is the second and final part in a two-part series. Now we've got Elizabeth Crouch, who likes to be called Liz, on the line. So let's get back to her. Have you ever considered licensing it? Is there any, I know there's...
I would love to. I would love to license it to Wilton, and a couple of companies have looked at it to license it, but I have had no success. As an inventor, you have to be willing to go through a lot of rejection. I get so many rejections from everybody. My next dream step would to be on HSN, and I went to a trade show in Chicago earlier this year, and I pitched to the American Dreams team, and they love the Cupcake Rack, but I had been rejected so many times from HSN and QVC and everybody else. But then when they see it in person, they kind of get a different perspective, and they loved it. So now I'm hoping that, it's in the works, that it's a possibility that we'll be on HSN next. But it's all ups and downs. Sometimes they say, yes, we're going to do this, and then the next day a door closes. So one opens and closes and opens and closes. You kind of get a little seasick going, but it still is fun. It's like a roller coaster ride, kind of makes you sick, but it's fun.
Yeah, no, I think every inventor
can
identify with that. Sure.
Yeah.
When I was reading on your website that the actual manufacturer that you decided on has been a really great partner for you. And I also noticed that your first order you purchased 3,400 Cupcake Racks. You're all in. I wanted to ask you a little bit about that.
So yes, my first order was one 20-foot container full. And I was naive, but it somehow, I am all in. I believe in it, and I think if America knows about it, they will love it. And everybody that has found out about it, they absolutely love it. My customers call me on the phone to tell me how much they love it and how much it changed their lives. And it's really amazing. But my manufacturer, I love him. I consider him my Chinese son. I love him so much because when I was placing my first order, I went through all the patenting, the website, the prototyping, and looking for an American manufacturer, had no luck at all. So I went through a website called Alibaba.com, where they have a star rating of manufacturers, and they show you how many years that manufacturer has been in business with Alibaba. So how they rate with the customers and how long they have been through this company. And so I looked for cupcake stand makers and found several, but my manufacturer I found through there. And when I contacted him, he contacted me right back. He gave me the best customer service I've ever had basically in my life. After I went through that prototyping problem with that engineer, when John too contacted me, it was like telling me every single thing, step along the way, to make me happy and make sure we were on the same page and everything. So I placed my order with him. We had everything settled. He was in the process of manufacturing. It was down to the last week of being done with 3,400 Cupcake Racks. And my grandson was assaulted. And when little Roy was assaulted, he was basically murdered by this guy. And the only reason why he wasn't murdered is because we got a miracle from God directly. Miracle saved my grandson's life. And so when I found out that my grandson was hurt, and all we did was go to the hospital, and all I did was pray. We were on our hands and knees praying day in and day out. That's it. I couldn't do anything else. But I knew in my head, even though I was only focused on little Roy, what I knew in my head was that the rest of the world isn't going to stop just because I have a tragedy in my life. And I have these obligations that I've set up, one with my manufacturer and with the freight forwarder. So I contacted him to let him know that, I might be hard to get a hold of or whatever. And he said, Liz, no matter what, I will get, I'm going to start crying just thinking about it. He said, no matter what, I will get the container filled and I will get the container on the ship and I will work with Angel. I put those two together, John to an Angel, my freight forwarder, so that they could get it all worked out. He goes, I'm going to send you emails every day and tell you what progress we have made today, and you don't have to respond at all. So you don't need to do anything. You just worry about your grandson, and I'll take care of everything. Can you believe that? I mean, this young guy taking it like that. And so they sent prayers for us. After little Roy did survive, John too sent a little silver bracelet with Chinese characters on it for happiness, health, wealth, and prosperity, or whatever it is on there. And he has treated me like I'm his mom and he's like my son. And every time I place an order with him, well, it's been 2. That's how successful I am so far. Both times, he's just been wonderful to work with. We keep in contact. We exchange Christmas gifts. We send each other pictures of our families. And I love the guy. And I'm praying for success, of course. And I want him to have it along with me for being such a great person.
Yeah, that's a dream partnership. That's a shame I don't hear more stories like that. A lot of times it's just the opposite. So that's really great. I don't know if you're working out of your house or if you have an office or anything, but what was that like to get your container delivered to you and you open it up and you're like, I mean, it had to look huge and there were 3,400 of them. I mean, was it just dazzling?
It's just amazing. We're out in the country and have a little bit of property. By the time my ship was ready to come to the West Coast, little Roy was finally out of the hospital and he had survived and he was breathing on his own and drinking a bottle, and he didn't die like they said he would, and then he wasn't the vegetable that he said he would, but there were still so many questions. Anyway, we were home from the hospital, and I was watching my ship online because you can go to some sites to figure out where the cargo ships are. And I also had a question, like my closest port is up in Portland, and I know that Portland is inland, and so I just was wondering how a cargo ship gets to Portland. So I researched that because I research everything. And I found out that the ships come in through Astoria over the Columbia River crossing. And that is one of the most dangerous crossings in the world because the Columbia River is so huge and the Pacific Ocean where they meet, it's just a really rough crossing because the sand changes all the time. So the bar is uneven and you never know exactly where it is. So it's a very dangerous crossing. So what happens is a container ship will park 3 to 5 miles outside of the bar and they'll helicopter a Columbia bar pilot onto the ship, and then that pilot drives the ship over the Columbia bar into the Columbia River, and that's up in Astoria. Then they remove him from the ship and fly in and drop off a Columbia River pilot to pilot the ship down the canal down to Portland. So I watched my ship for when it would come into Astoria, and I drove up to Astoria so I would be there when my ship was passing through. So I actually literally saw my ship come in. I like to say that.
Yeah, that's cool.
So then they put it on a truck and they drove it to my house and we unloaded it here. And when you have to unload 3,400, well, it wasn't, it was like 700 boxes, I think, something like that, because you have 2 hours to unload it or else you charge more money. My husband and my daughter and I unload like as fast as we can. And it was just amazing. The truck driver pulls in and then he cuts off the lock on the container to show that it's never been opened by anybody and you don't have anything weird inside your container. And so they open it up and there's your container full of your future. You know, it's like it's right there. It's amazing. It's a very amazing feeling. And watching my ship go down the Columbia River in Astoria, it was like amazing. And I waved at it. was early in the morning. They probably thought, this is a crazy lady over there on the shore just waving at us. That was me.
Right on.
It was fun, though.
I could actually picture you waving to it. Hey, I wanted to ask you, how do you sell it? I mean, other than your website, how do you get it out there? What's your marketing strategy?
That's it right now. It's on my website, and I have it on Amazon and Etsy. And I just promote it on social media as much as I can. And then I talk about it, and I try to get on TV shows and trying to get on HSN. So it's basically social media. That's my strategy right now because I really don't have a budget for advertising or promotions like that. But also I went to a trade show in Chicago in March, and then that was a blast too, getting to see Chicago is the coolest city. And I'm going to a wedding trade show in October in Las Vegas. And so I'm trying to get it out there in front of people that would use it. Like the trade show for the weddings is for bridal stores and event planners and rental places. And so they'll see it and hopefully pass the word on to all their brides. And the trade show I went to in Chicago was for a houseware show. So I actually got some really good customers from the exposure there at that trade show.
And now it's time for a commercial break. The Invention Stories Podcast is brought to you by the Socket Saver. Do the plugs fall out of your wall sockets? The Socket Saver is an easy, safe, and effective solution. No repairs necessary, no circuit breakers involved, no electrical knowledge or mechanical skills required. Socket Savers are inexpensive, efficient, and portable. For more information, please visit www.socketsaver.com. Now, Liz, so you haven't really tried to get into Walmart or any sort of tuxedo rental places or wedding places?
Yeah, I submit it to everybody, and I did get on Walmart.com, but they wanted to reduce the price so much to be less expensive than anywhere else. And so I removed it from Walmart.com because I don't want to devalue my product yet. Well, I don't ever want to really, but I don't want to sell it for cheaper than the value. At this point, if I get on HSN or something, I don't want Walmart to be selling it so cheap that I can't afford to go on HSN because they would look at it at a lower cost and go, well, we need to sell it for less than that. And so that doesn't work for me at this point. But I am in one little store in McMinnville. McMinnville is, okay, so 3rd Street in McMinnville is one of the top main streets in the nation in Sunset Magazine. And it's because our area over here is becoming the new Napa Valley, and it's a destination place for people to come because of all the wineries and everything around here now. So I am in one little store there, and it does okay there. But I would like to be in Walmart on the shelf, but it's just I haven't been able to get there yet. I push it, but get a lot of rejections.
Shoot, I would think like supermarkets and bakeries, would be a nice sweet spot. Are you a salesman? Do you feel comfortable going through the door? You seem to have a nice outgoing personality. How do you feel about sales?
It's like sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, but I could. And one of my strategies that I would like to do is maybe hit the coast because I'm pretty close to the coast, 30 miles away or so, and go to the little shops on the coast and maybe try selling there. And whenever I go out to Salem, I see some stores that I think, oh, the Cupcake Rack would be great in there, but I haven't done that yet. So that's something I may do.
I know that you do a lot of things in your life, and you said grandmother, mother, you have a job,
and
you do
I'm
this
little Roy's
part-time.
caretaker now full-time. So, and he learned how to walk recently, and he's getting bigger. He's 5 years old now, so it probably will be a little bit easier now for me to be able to take him with me to some of the places, try to get on the shelf.
Sure, it may help open doors as well. How do you manage your work-life balance? How do you juggle everything?
My daughter just became a nurse, and she just started a job as an RN at Tillamook Hospital. So that is great. We're finally past the school part now because when she was going to nursing school, we also had several operations for little Roy. We had the trial for the guy that hurt him and so many things going on that it was a pretty tough journey getting her through school and getting past all that. So she finally started a job August 1st, so it's just been for 1 month so far. And like with you, it's like, when is a good time? So I had to get her schedule and figure out a good time when she would be home where she could take him and I have a few minutes to myself. So that's why I set it up for this day. And so I just try to plan everything with my schedule, and it really is the hottest things get done. I have stacks of stuff to do everywhere, but I do what I can and just keep on pushing and keep on trying. But he's thriving. He's amazing. He's a miracle. He talks. He's hilarious. He's adorable. But I can't really work when I'm watching him because he takes a lot of attention.
Sure.
Maybe it's just because I'm grandma. So I just do what I can when I can.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So.
Yeah, no, and moms are always, they're used to juggling 7 things at once. So I think a lot of people can identify with that. What has been like the best use of your money?
Okay, so to get my patent, I decided that was one thing that I better not just try myself. No, I take that back. I did try it first. I started researching how to write a patent. And after the research, I decided this is something that I can't mess up, can't redo if you make a really bad mistake. And so I decided to hire an attorney to write up my patent application. And I went through LegalZoom because that was the best money. I had gone to 2 different patent attorneys in my area, one in Salem and one in Portland, and neither of them were up to par for me. The one in Salem, that was at the very beginning also of my journey, so maybe they just thought I didn't know what I was talking about because really I didn't. But the one up in Portland said, yeah, it will cost you at least $10,000 for a patent. And I was like, okay, can't use him. So I looked up LegalZoom, and they're much more affordable. And so I went through them and had them file my provisional patent. And then after I got my design down and everything for the cupcake rack that we're using, I filed for the utility patent through them. And so I got one rejection letter, and it was a non-final rejection letter. And so that attorney from LegalZoom contacted me and said, okay, so if we do an amendment, it will only cost you $1,800 more, and we'll do the amendment, and then hopefully it will pass. Well, I had gone to a show in Las Vegas with the Cupcake Rack. I was doing a dessert table. Inventors Network, Deanna Cohen. Deanna Cohen and Melinda McKnight.
I'm drawing a blank right now.
Well, anyway, they invited us to do their dessert table. They're called Inventors Network with Z's in it instead of S's. So we were in Vegas, and they brought in Louis Foreman, who is the founder of Edison Nation. And I still was too new to know. I had just found Edison Nation, didn't know who the founder was. But I met Louis Foreman there, and he had a small conversation with me, and it was about patents. And he said, if you get a rejection letter, which everybody does, all you have to do is call your examiner at the patent office, because they want to pass patent. They want to make your patent go through. But sometimes they just need little changes. So if you get a rejection letter, just call them and see what it is that you need. So when I got my rejection letter and LegalZoom told me it's $1,800 more, I thought, well, they wrote up my application. And once I see something, I can kind of learn from that. So I called the patent examiner, asked him what he needed. He told me the changes I needed to make. So I went through the application myself, made actually a whole bunch of amendments because I found some other stuff that I needed redone. And it was like, why is this misspelled or whatever? But so I redid the amendment myself to save $1,800, and I was approved for my patent. So that was well worth the money, getting my utility patent. And the manufacturing was well worth the money for me. I guess that's not the way business is always done nowadays. You don't always just go out and make your product and try to sell it yourself, because not everybody has a place to store it. We fortunately do have a place to store everything. My husband helps me with everything, so it's not like I'm trying to figure all this stuff out all by myself. And so for me, it was worth the money, though, to get it manufactured, to get my patent, to invest in my website. And I think those were my biggest costs.
Okay. On the flip side, what was not a good use of your time and money?
definitely the engineer that built my first prototype. That was a big mistake for me because I was so naive. I think I just was like I didn't have my details, I guess, good enough or something. And I got him so excited about my idea. That was a big mistake of mine. I would do as much as I myself if I were a new inventor. I think that I tried to forget really bad things, so I can't remember anything else besides that prototype that I felt was a waste of money. Try to build your own website because when you're selling your product, you're going to want to make changes all the time on your website. And if you have to call somebody to make those changes for you, it might cost you extra money and you might have to wait. And sometimes, like, if I talk to a customer and they want to buy several items at once, I'll give them a discount that's not typically on my website. So I'll want to go in and put a coupon code in immediately. So I would suggest knowing how to do your website yourself, or at least be able to make changes yourself. Trade shows are good. Trade shows are one of the excellent places to use your money to get exposure to your product.
So you can go ahead and put in a coupon code yourself, huh? Did you want to put in a coupon code for our...
I do my own website, so I put my own coupon codes in or whatever, you know. I even have contests sometimes and give away prizes. So, like, I have the best cupcake bouquet for, like, last year I had the best summer cupcake bouquet. So a bunch of people entered beautiful cupcake bouquets using the Cupcake Rack that they made under that theme, and I gave away a $100 Visa card. But I have all these beautiful pictures from these very talented customers, you know, and it was fun for them to do their cupcake bouquet and enter the contest. So I have some amazing pictures from very talented customers.
I wanted to thank you for being on the Invention Stories podcast. Did you want to do a coupon code for our listeners?
Absolutely. And thank you for having me on. So I'll give your listeners 20% off, and the code that they would need to type in would be POD, P-O-D, all capitals.
Sounds good.
Podcast, and that will make it easy. P-O-D for 20% off.
I just want to ask you one last question, and we'll end on a nice high note there. What have you enjoyed the most about this whole process, and from the time you had the idea to where you are today, what have you enjoyed the most?
The most that I've enjoyed, actually, I love the learning process and spending my time doing something that I feel is productive. So I loved my trip to the Steve Harvey show. That was really excellent. And I've loved all the people I've met along the way. And one of my favorite things, though, is because I've learned a lot and been through so much in the past 4.5 years or 5 years, whatever it is now, doing the Cupcake Rack. I like sharing my information with other inventors. You know, if anybody has any questions, I'm like an open book. Just ask me. I will tell you if I know the answer, you know. So I love sharing my experience with anybody and everybody. So it's just been a great journey. That I've had many, many tears, and I've wanted to give up several times. And for one reason or another, so like, you know, I believe in God because I told you my grandson is a miracle survivor, you know, of the assault that he got. And God is fully in my life. And so every time I've given up, where it's like, okay, today I'm just done. I've had it. Clearly it's not going anywhere. Something happens. God gives me a sign of some kind that says, nope, don't give up today. We're going to give you the Steve Harvey show. Or don't give up today because this or that, you know, something comes up that he shows me that it's not time to give up on it. So there's a lot of ups and downs, but it's really been fun. It's really been a learning experience. And when you have knowledge like that, it's fun to share, and I enjoy doing that.
You've been listening to episode 26 of the Invention Stories Podcast, Elizabeth Crouch and the Cupcake Rack Part 2. I want to thank Liz for being our guest today. More information can be found at www.thecupcakerack.com. The Invention Stories Podcast has been sponsored by The Socket Saver. Does the plug fall out of your wall socket while vacuuming, drying your hair, using a power tool, or recharging your electronic devices? The Socket Saver is an easy, safe, and effective solution. Please visit www.socketsaver.com. If you're an inventor who would like to be featured on the Invention Stories podcast, have a suggestion on how we can make this podcast better, or would like to become a sponsor, please contact us at inventionstoriespodcast@gmail.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, we invite you to write a positive review for us on iTunes. An easy way to get there is to go to www.inventionstories.com/review. More information and show notes can be found at our website, www.inventionstories.com. Thank you very much for listening today, and please tell a friend.